Hi everyone. All right, so we're going to talk about absolute value. We touched on it a little bit in the last lesson. So if you recall, your parent function equation looks like this. It's y equals the absolute value of x. And your graph from our last lesson looks something like this. All these x values um, create this v that's symmetrical on both sides. That's what we talked about in the last lesson. We also touched on the domain. So for domain is all real numbers because you can plug in all negative, all positive numbers in. But you will only get positive numbers out for the parent function. So remember, this is for your parent function. So as your graph changes, so will those pieces of information. So I want to do some practice. Pause the video when you need to so you can copy down problems. But we're going to do number one. So the first one we have is y equals the absolute value of x minus 2 and that's minus 4. So I'm going to put my original parent function in here so you can see the change. So my original parent function should be similar to the one that we have above. So it's in black here. This is my y equals absolute value of x. Okay, and then I'm going to do this one in purple. Okay, so I'm just going to plug in some values. All right, so we're going to kind of see what this looks like. So I'm going to use my -2, -1, 1, and 2 to do this. So if I plug in -2 here, -2 minus 2 is -4. That'll change to a positive 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. So that's a big change right there. So -2, 0. I plug in 1. I get -1 minus 2, which is -3. Changes to positive. So 3 minus 4 gives me -1. So take that away. Sorry, guys. Messed up where I was plotting my point. So -1, -1, 0, -2. And then so 1 minus 2 is -1, changes to positive. So 1 minus 4 gives me -3. So I'm seeing this little trend right here. So I need to kind of come up with some other points. So I'm going to plug in -3 and -4. So -3 minus 2 is -5. Changes to positive. 5 minus 4 is 1. Okay. Let's try -4. So -4 minus 2 gives me -6. Changes to positive. 6 minus 4 is 2. Okay, so it's not helping too much. So let's try +3 and +4. So +3, 3 minus 2 is 1. +1 minus 4 is -3. There we go. So I'm starting to see where my shape changes. Okay, and we're going to talk about a quicker way to do this in later in our notes. But you can see that the pattern will continue, and then you can connect your points. Okay, so that's what problem one looks like. So for problem two, okay, move over here, problem two. Get a little bigger, there we go. I'm going to put in my parent function. Okay, I would go ahead and do that too. I want you to see how it changes. We're going to talk about what that looks like in upcoming notes. So this is y equals my parent function, which is absolute value of x. So here we have absolute value of x plus 1. Okay, so again, I'm going to take a look at my -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2 and see what happens. Okay, so if I plug in -2, -2 plus 1 is -1. That changes to a positive. So -2 positive 1, negative 1. Negative 1 plus 1 is just 0. That's kind of nice. 0 plus 1 is 1. So when x is 0, we get 1. For 1, 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 3, or 2 plus 1 is 3. So let's see, graphing real quick. So you can see the change here. So I'm guessing if we plug in negative 3, we would get positive 2. If we plug in negative 4, we would get a positive 3. And then this is our function right here. So taking a look at 1 and 2, and 1 and 2 on here. For 1, if you look, my graph shifted right and down, okay, right 2, down 4. And for number 2, it shifted left 1. So I want you to keep that in mind. Look at where you start and where you end. Okay? So I want to take a look at number 3. So number 3, very similar. It's absolute value, except the plus 1 is on the outside. So again, I'm going to put my parent function in. You need to do the same thing. Okay, so that's my parent function right there. So I always label so I know which one. I'm going to do it in purple again. So again, I'm going to use my -2, -1, 1, and 2. You can use any points you want, but these are the smallest ones, so it makes it a little easier. So if you plug in -2, that becomes a positive. So 2 plus 1 is 3. Remember, absolute value makes everything inside positive once you've simplified. So -1 changes to a positive, so that becomes a 2. 0 is just 0, so that becomes 1. 0 plus 1 is 1. There's 2, and then there's 3 again. So -2, positive 3, -2, positive 2, 0, 1. And you can see it starts to turn, starts to change. So this is our new function. So at this point, you need to ask yourself, what is happening from my original to my new? You can see that it moved up. Okay, it did move up. So keep that in the back of your mind when you're graphing. You think about what it's doing. And again, we're going to talk about that in another section. Okay, so I'm going to have you try to do number 4 on your own. So you've tried it on your own. So you should have your parent function right there. Again, you should always label. So somebody who isn't in this lesson, who's just looking at it later, could tell what that is. So if you plugged in your points, 0, 3, 2, 3. Oh, that's not 0. Oh my gosh, Mrs. Coleman, for real. So -2, positive 4, -1, 3, 0, 2, 1, 3. You can see that the pattern is starting to change. So you have this function right here. So you need to ask yourself what happened at this point. Okay, so what happened from your original to the new? So you can say it went up 2. So again, keep this in the back of your mind of what we're doing, what we're practicing, all right? So now we have a few examples. I'm going to have you try a couple on your own. Okay. All right, so you should have done 5 and 6. So you can see that 5 shifted left 2. Okay, so you should have a shifted left 2. And number 6 is a little bit different. You had 2 things happening here. You had gone left 1 and up 3. That's kind of how it moved. So again, start noticing how it's moving. If you need to look at this more, go ahead and pause the video. But I'm going to move on. We're going to do 7. All right. So again, putting in my parent function, you should do the same. I want you to see how they change. Okay, so put in your parent function real quick. you need to pause to do this because I know I'm doing it very quickly, go ahead and do that. So for number 7, again, we're going to just make a chart and see what happens. So I'm going to choose my lowest values. So -1 or -2, -1, 1, 2, and 0. So plug in -2. This becomes a -4. The absolute value changes it to positive, but we have this minus sign out front now. So we now have a -4. So this is what I'm looking at. So this absolute value changes it to positive, okay? But because there's a minus out here, you now have a -4, which gives you a -6. So it's going to do that to everything. So for your -1, same thing, you plug it in, you get -3, changes to positive, and then because of this negative, it changes back to a -3. So this becomes -3 minus 2, which is 5, -5. This would be -4. You plug in 1, you should get -3, and 2, you should get -2. So let's take a look at what we do have. So -2, -6, -1, -5. I'm trying to see if I'm getting close to the vertex here. Okay. So let's try 3 and 4 and see what happens. If I plug in 3, I get 3 minus 2, which is 1. So here I get a -3. Now I'm starting to go back down. And again, it's symmetrical, so if I plug in 4, I should get this -4 right here. So 4 minus 2 is 2. -2 minus 2, it does give me that -4. So we can start looking at that pattern right here. Okay, so you need to think about how this changed. It was facing up, now it's facing down. Okay, so we're going to talk about that again. We're going to do that in a separate note section. And it also moved. It moved and went down. So we need to take a look at that pattern. And when we get to the shortcut, you guys are going to really like that, all right? So have you do number 8. All right, so here's your final answer for problem 8. Again, pause the video if you need to so you can check your graph and make any adjustments that you need. Okay. And then I'll have you do a couple more on your own. All right, so you'll do 9 and 10. All right, so those are 9 and 10. Again, if you have any questions, come and see me during our office hours. All right, other than that, have a good day. Keep it up. Keep up the good work.